Hi everyone, I hope everyone is really doing well. Welcome to 20th November early morning. It's 10 a.m. Today we are doing the daily decodes at 10 and there was a recommendation by many students sir, if you can take the session early in the morning. So we are taking today and let's see, how do you find the session early in the morning? Though we have done, we have crossed almost rather we have crossed more than a month now. We started the daily decodes, if I am correct, by 17th October and right now we are on 20th November and there are a lot of news today specifically coming from international affairs, from IR international relations, in terms of news coming from since G20 is happening in Rio de Janeiro and the Prime Minister Modi was there. So on the sidelines of that summit, he has been able to meet the UK Prime Minister, the Italian Prime Minister, and also the news coming from Putin, because he is reviving or changing the nuclear doctrine in terms of what is happening between Russia, Ukraine, and specifically America. So with this so much amount of great news we would be covering today, first of all, let's move towards the thought of the day, that is just thinking about the result will not give you the result. So this is a huge problem which keeps happening. So, people say that you need to imagine what you want to become. For example, if you want to become an army officer, you want to become an IAS officer, IPS officer, it's said that you need to manifest it, you need to imagine it. So this is only the 10% part of it or 5% part of it. Imagination is fine, but for that imagination to become a reality, you need to put effort. Just by imagining the World Cup, Mahendra Singh Dhoni did not win the World Cup. He had to perform and his team had to perform with him, and then he was able to get all the trophies. Similarly, whatever your imagination is, just thinking about the result will not help. Working on that result on day-to-day basis, that means to become process-oriented, everyday process-oriented will fetch you the result. So with this positive thought, let's start today's class. And I see beginning the day with Daily Decode, Alexander is there. Good morning, good morning. And it's good to see you here. And with this, let's move towards the important news of the today. The first important news is Putin issues warning to the United States with new nuclear doctrine. So this was expected specifically till the Joe Biden is the president. External Affairs Minister Jay Shankar and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi discusses resumption of direct flight visa issuance. This is basically, this is a rather the consequence of what happened at the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazakh. There we had the India and China, we had a formal meeting there, and at that point of time, we spoke about disengagement and the deal was done. And now we are trying to normalize relationship with India and China. So again, a very positive news coming. India, Italy to negotiate defense industrial roadmap. A wonderful news coming from Prime Minister Modi and the Meloni on the other side. Tamil Nadu leads in women councillors report from Janagraha. It's a non-profit organization. So a wonderful report coming. It's a positive news that Tamil Nadu is leading in women councillors and what can be done to improve the urban governance, that we would be covering. In UPSC Prelims Impact 74th Amendment Act, we would be covering. In Editorial Prison Tag on a viable means of decongesting prisons. So a mixed bag of social issues and international issues are what we are covering today. So let's move towards the first important news. Putin signs revised nuclear doctrine amid Ukraine war. So anybody can ask me, sir, why are you covering this news as the first news? Because this news can escalate, or this incident can escalate into the Third World War. Even if not a Third World War, it can escalate into a nuclear war. Why am I saying this? Because I'm saying this because this particular episode has happened. This is the crux, or this is the reason why Putin is changing its nuclear doctrine, or Russia's nuclear doctrine. Biden authorizes Ukraine to use US supplied long range missiles, and these missiles will have a range for more than 300 kilometers for deeper strike inside Russia. So Russia had categorically told the Americans and the Europeans that you will not give or not allow Ukraine to use long range missiles. Now Joe Biden and his party Democrats have lost the election, and we very well know that Donald Trump has categorically said that he is not interested in wars, and on his day 1 or day 2, or rather on his day 1, he would end the Russia-Ukraine war. Obviously, that can be a rhetoric, but he has been very clear that he will not fund the Ukraine war. Rather, Donald Trump has said that Ukraine's President Zelensky, he is the biggest salesman who comes to US, gives his pitch and gives his winning plan and takes billions of dollars. And Trump is not interested in doing so. But currently, Donald Trump is a president-elect. He does not have the power. He will have the power in January when he has the official seat. Till that time, Joe Biden has a lot of power, and Democrats and Joe Biden has said, or it's in the news reports, that they will give Ukraine so much of money and weapons that for the next 1 year, Ukraine will not be dependent on Donald Trump, his presidency, or America, so that Ukraine can continue the war for 1 year. Now, this is what Joe Biden has done. He has allowed these long-range missiles which Ukraine was asking through. So Zelensky had made a victory plan, something called victory plan, and he was pitching that victory plan to NATO, to European countries, Germany, France, UK, and he was also pitching that plans to Americans. And the victory plan basically included that they will occupy some territories of Russia, and by using all these missiles, etc. And then when a ceasefire happens, they will barter that we will give you our back territories, you need to give back our territories, something on these lines. Exact details are not out, but whatever the the media reports and news reports come, I'm telling on the basis of that. Now coming back on to this, so now he is giving him long range missiles, which can target deeper in Russia. Since it can target deeper in Russia, it can target their military installments, it can target their army installments. So what is America basically doing? Rather than talking about ceasefire, or rather than talking about truce, they're talking about, or rather they are doing horizontal and vertical escalation both. Horizontal escalation is happening because North Korea as a third party has already come. They have already given around 11,000 to 12,000 troops which are in the Kursk region, and they will do a counter offensive against the Ukraine, since Ukraine has occupied the some areas of Kursk region in Russia. So that is your horizontal escalation. Horizontal escalation means Ukraine and Russia are fighting the war, but if many countries start, including the number of countries start increasing. I'll give you one more example to make you understand. In Israel-Hamas war also, it is a horizontal escalation. It was happening between Israel and Hamas, then it was happening with Israel and Hezbollah, that is Lebanon side, then it is happening between Israel and Iran, then it is happening between Israel and Houthis. This is horizontal escalation. Now, using nuclear weapons or using these long-range missiles, this is vertical escalation. What is vertical escalation? For example, I say that I will use a revolver. On the other side, you say that you are using a revolver, I will use a tank. The other person will say, I will use a missile. So the number of weapons, or the drastic proneness of the, or potency of the weapons keep on increasing. This is called vertical escalation, which happens basically in terms of weapons. And horizontal escalation happens in terms of countries. Now, Russia-Ukraine war, we are witnessing both now. And this is not good for the world, because if both increases, the entire effort would be, or entire money would be spending on defense, and this would not be good for global economy. So this is currently happening, and now Putin is basically saying that since you are allowing Ukraine to use these long-range missiles to attack us, we are also changing our nuclear doctrine, and we will target any country which supports Ukraine in terms of these missiles. Nuclear attacks. So they can target Americans also, they can target Europeans also. And this is a statement which has been given by Russia. Doctrine states that any massive aerial attack on Russia, or an attack by a non-nuclear power supported, which is a non-nuclear power? Ukraine is a non-nuclear power. It is supported by nuclear power. So UK is a nuclear power and the Americans are nuclear power. Supported by nuclear power could trigger a nuclear response. So in this way, Putin is directly targeting which country? Americans, Western countries, that includes Europe, and in Europe it includes Germany, France, UK, which are supporting this war. So this is not a great news which is coming. This is escalation. So triggers for nuclear war: massive aerial attacks, ballistic missile, cruise missile, drones and aircraft. So they've also changed that. So in their doctrine, initially they used to talk about ballistic nuclear missiles, but now they're also talking about changing their doctrine. They can use cruise missile, they use drones and aircraft. So again, the problem is coming that first the Russia has changed its doctrine, and now it is in their strategic interest to use. So already they have entered Ukraine, taken so many territories, and America giving so much of money and so much of missiles is not resolving the war. And you can see the hypocrisy of Americans also. When it comes to Israel war, they'll talk about ceasefire and truce. When it comes to Ukraine war, it looks like the current government dispensation, they are interested in, increasing this war because it suits the need of the current presidency here, because most of the companies which are selling weapons to Ukraine, or, it's going through aid and everything, it is making a lot of money for these defense companies in, not in UK, I mean to say in USA. So defense companies making a lot of money in USA, which are very close to the Democrats. Again, these are all news reports which I am talking about, and apart from what I've understood till now. So in this case, this escalation is not good for India. This is not good for the global economy. This is not good for global peace as well. And as we have already seen, the Baku in the 29th climate change COP, which was happening at Baku, Azerbaijan, everyone is still talking about when will money come, when will money come. Money will not come. The developed world is not giving money because they are interested in giving money to fund the Russia-Ukraine war. So where would the money come? So developing countries, India, and then the global south, which we keep talking about. I was talking about global south yesterday also in the Daily Decodes. The only thing which will happen is that we will only have these climate change meeting, one meeting after another. So it was, if you go back in 40s, 50s, 60s culture of India, in government offices, there was a meeting of tea, then that tea will decide when will the next meeting happen. Similar things are happening here in this climate change meetings. You only get new jargons which are good for UPSC syllabus. Okay, so that we have to write mains and prelims, mains answer and prelims question, but categorically something substantial coming out which will stop the global warming, stop the greenhouse gas emissions, it will take a huge amount of time to come. So anyways, this is the news which we have already covered, and this entire news, the PDF would be given in the description. You can download the PDF and then go through this entire news also later on. Okay, rest I've covered everything. Okay, so Kremlin's position is very clear. Describe the revised doctrine as timely and alignment with the current geopolitical scenario. What is the current geopolitical scenario in terms of US? I've already explained you. So we have a mains question out here, that is, discuss the implication of Russia's revised nuclear doctrine for global security and its importance on NATO-US relations. So you can use the news and a little bit of information of PDF and rest work on the answer. Now let's move towards the next important news, that is at G20 Summit, India-China discussion, resumption of flights and visa issuance. Now before we proceed on this news, you need to understand that the 16th BRICS Summit happened at Kazakh, and there was the place where the thaw in the relation between India and China happened. It's not only the 16th BRICS Summit, before that the external affairs minister, national security advisor, they were already working with China on multiple parameters, but that I can say was the culmination point, and we already know in Daily Decodes we had covered that part in thorough detail. Now at that point of time, we had a deal on disengagement, troops moving from basically the Ipsang region and the majorly two confrontation points. And then the formal meeting happened, and this is a follow-up of news. That means something good has started, and now G20 meeting was happening. So at G20, the top heads of the countries are there, and on sidelines of these meetings, since you get the Chinese president would be there, his team would be there, his foreign minister would be there, similarly Italy would be there, UK would be there. So you talk to them on the sidelines, what deals can happen. So this G20, obviously G20 is an agenda which we have already done. In the previous news. On the sidelines, what happened we are covering today. Just want to tell you, it's an update, though this is not in the news. It's that the Indian Prime Minister, and the Indian department, they did not meet Justin Trudeau. Okay, and we very well know why he did not meet Justin Trudeau. And there is one important angle of Justin Trudeau and India and education. When we go to Italy news, we'll cover that part also. Anyways, coming back here on this G20 summit, External Affairs Minister, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, so discuss relations and next steps. Whenever you forget the name of, the foreign minister of, say, China, so his name is Wang Yi. So if you forget his name and you are writing a mains answer, you can always remember Maggie. So if you remember Maggie, you can remember Wang Yi. So this is one way of correlating. So I know it's a bit of funny, but it's easier to understand. Okay. So External Affairs Minister Jaishankar and Chinese Foreign Minister met on the sidelines of G20 Summit in Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro is in Brazil. Last year's summit 2023 happened in New Delhi. Discussion revolved around resuming direct flights. Now, direct flights, we don't have direct flights with China. This basically happened after the post-Galwan when we had banned these direct flights, journalist visits were banned, and then we had banned more than 100 Chinese apps. So, visas, journalist permission, sharing river data, and enabling the return of Indian pilgrims to Kailash Mansarovar. So the thaw in the relationship is happening. We are trying to make relationship better with China. As I have said in the previous lectures of Daily Decodes, I reiterate my point that when you are talking to China, China is a country which is a dragon with a forked tongue. So you know what is a fork? So it is a forked tongue. So with China, you have to be cautiously optimistic. This is a very important term, cautiously optimistic. So you have to be optimistic but very cautious about China, because Chinese economy today is not doing very well. But tomorrow when its economy does very well, it can go back to its 2018, 1918 stance when it was a very powerful country and it was doing. Today they are not investing so much money on BRI because domestically they are struggling with their economy, and as per the IMF reports they would not be even able to get their GDP. I think their GDP target is around 5.1%. They would not be able to achieve. There is a problem of real estate, and now they are talking about stimulus, putting $1 trillion in the economy, but nothing is working for China. And then the second issue why China is trying to improve relationship with India or the other countries is that one major problem that since the Donald Trump has come into the presidency, he's categorically told that we would be putting 60% plus tariffs on the Chinese goods. So if the American market, the Chinese goods are not able to sell in American markets, they would be trying to sell these goods in some other countries, and that is why they are trying to make good relationship with everyone. That is why I said China has a dragon forked tongue, and that is why it is important to be cautiously optimistic. Okay, now moving further, this meeting follows the October 21st LAC disengagement. This is October 21st is the time of your Kazan summit also, and the Modi-Xi meeting in Russia. Okay, so restoration of direct flights, mutual assignment of journalists. The problem with China is that if you are into international affairs and internal security, if 10 journalists of China are coming, trust me, out of them 3 to 4 are intelligence spies of China. That is the biggest problem. Like this I know because I've been into this place. I've worked in my previous tenures at different places. So in security arena. So that way, the problem with China is that they will send 10 journalists. Out of 10, 3-4 can be spies. So this is one thing India should be aware about it. You can get multiple reports and multiple Chinese being caught. In the Google, you will see those reports. So plans to commemorate 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations in 2025 with activities to enhance understanding and trust. So again, these were the same words, understanding and trust, when Prime Minister Modi said at the 16th Kazan summit when he was having a formal meeting with China, that is trust and understanding, mutual trust and respect. If there is no mutual trust and respect, so what will happen? 2018, Modi ji goes to China, that he goes to Wuhan. Then 2019, Xi Jinping comes to Mamlapuram, and it looks like India and China are going something very good relationship, and 2020 you get Galwan. So that is the problem with China. Okay, you can't trust them, and that is why you will keep hearing this word again and again: understanding and trust, understanding and trust. Okay, mutual respect and trust. These are the continuous words which you will keep hearing. So this is something which we need to work upon, not we, specifically China. We need to be cautious about China. Okay. So challenges ahead, Depsang and Demchok, these are two important points. These were in the Galwan area. We have majorly resolved it, but we still need to resolve buffer zones. So what were buffer zones? For example, this was a A zone which was occupied by India or rather it belongs to India. This is B. So at that point of time, we had created buffer zones, and these buffer zone were the area neither Chinese will enter, neither India will enter. Now dismantling of these buffer zones needs to be done. So the defense forces and the diplomacy on both sides are working to dismantle them. And how de-escalation and de-induction will happen, only time will say. So first happens disengagement, then it happens de-escalation, then it will happen de-induction, and then finally you have normalization of ties. So this is the step: disengagement, de-escalation, then de-induction, normalization. To de-engagement, they are disengaging at that point of time. De-escalation, escalation, de-escalation is terms of, the spectrum of conflict. So for example, you had a skirmish, fight, then skirmish, then you have a conventional war, then conventional war, you have a nuclear war. So when you talk about de-escalation, is the spectrum of conflict. So they are reducing. Finally, de-induction, there are around 40 to 50,000 Indian and Chinese troops on the border. So they will move, they will start moving from the borders and going to the other posts, because there is a huge amount of cost on China also, on India also to maintain. And finally, the normalization of relationship. So meeting signals in normalizing ties, broader international and regional cooperation. This is a good step, restoring flights. But again, we need to be very, VARY, wary of Chinese intention. The meetings will continue. Again, this is a diplomacy. In diplomacy, there's a wonderful saying: there is no permanent friends, they are not permanent enemies. Only thing which matters is permanent interest. I'm very sure you are students of international relations. You must have read about this. So the meetings will continue. Special representatives level, NSA Doval and Wangi will meet again. And then at the foreign secretary level, foreign secretary Vikram Misri, he was also in the news when the Kazan summit was happening. So the talks will continue. So as and when what happened, I will cover in the coming news. Now let's move to the next international news. Today the paper is full of international news. Okay, India and Italy to negotiate defense and industrial roadmap, focus on maritime sector. So already Meloni and Prime Minister Modi and the Prime Minister of Italy, they share a very good relationship. Over a period of time, we have seen in terms of relationship, the cohesiveness and holistic improvement in India-Italy relationship has been seen, and this is the culmination of it. So today when you see this roadmap, mutual agreements happening, this does not happen on one day. This takes time. This takes understanding. And obviously diplomatic relation, international affairs is quid pro quo. It's kind of a barter. You give this, then I will give you this. It can be you are giving 2 and the other person might give you 3. But 0 and 3 is very difficult. It can be one-sided. For example, it's happening in Ukraine, but the intentions of America and Ukraine are very different. There are multiple the resources in Ukraine and how they can use NATO to target Russia. That's the major intention of Americans there. Anyways, coming here. So India and Italy agreed to negotiate defense industrial roadmap. So before I proceed to this news, so German Chancellor Olaf Scholz was in India. Then the Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, was in India recently. And both of them were commonly talking about one important thing: selling weapons to India. Why? Because India buys a lot of weapons. Earlier we were buying weapons from Russia, then we moved to Americans, then we are buying from Israel and many other countries, but mainly Europe was not coming. Now Germany has come, Spain has come, they are talking about selling submarines to us, and that is the same thing Italy is also talking about, selling weapons to us. Now Germany is very good in small weapons, okay, like revolver and guns, so they want to sell those weapons to India, because India is a booming market and the future of the world is Asia, there is no doubt about that. Coming back here, so focusing on cooperation, maritime and port sectors, mutual protection and exchange of classified information. That means intelligence sharing. By the way, where is Trudeau, which was asking support of all these European countries? He thought he would, ostracize India. He himself has got ostracized. And what is happening in Canada, everybody knows. Okay, the commitment is a part of Joint Strategic Action Plan 2025 to 2029. That means for coming 4 years, outlining the vision of bilateral ties in the coming next 5 years. I mean to say 5 years between India and Italy. So defense industrial roadmap between ministries of defense of both, how they can use technology on the side, how they can make military complexes which can benefit India and Italy both. MOU has signed between Society of Indian Defence Manufacture and Italian Industries Federation of Aerospace, Defence and Security, military to military exchange to enhance interoperability. So what is interoperability? For example, Indian Navy is doing an operation with Italian Navy, say in Pacific or in Atlantic. Now, for example, we have one way of doing an operation and Italians have a different way of doing the operation. Intent is same, that, to eliminate the enemy. Over a period of time, we get to know how Italians do. That is a much better way. It takes lesser time. They have better weapons or better technology. We can take this. So this is interoperability, that both forces come, they learn from each other, and whichever is the best thing, they try to implement it. So in future, what will happen, tomorrow if an operation is happening and Indian and Italians are working together, they know their working styles, they know how to implement this operation, and this is how they would be able to achieve success. So again, to improve interoperability, military to military exchange, especially in Indo-Pacific region. Now they're talking about Indo-Pacific region. Which all countries are interested in Indo-Pacific region? Quad is interested. Quad is Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. That is your India, US, Australia and Japan. Now Italy is also interested, because if you go in the national security strategy of all these European countries, including America, their number one threat is not Russia. The number one threat is China. And China is a threat. Okay, it is still the the largest exporter of these manufacturing goods, or the largest manufacturer. So again, that is the focus on Indo-Pacific region. So recent military engagement, recently there was an exercise also between India and Italy. So it was a first ever career strike group exchange in the Goa involving INS Vikramaditya and ITS Kevor. Technological collaboration is also happening. Both sides committed to exploring partnership in technology collaboration, co-production, co-development of defense platforms and equipment. So Germany is interested, Spain is interested, Americans are always interested. They would be selling us Predator drones, and now Italy is also interested. So it's all not only defense. There is one particular thing I want to talk about. Let that slide comes. It will take a bit. I think it's the next slide. Maritime cooperation, again, is part of the part of the defense only. Enhanced collaboration in maritime pollution response, maritime search and rescue operations. So again, this also include your anti-piracy operation. If some people get stuck, Italy's growing interest in Indo-Pacific region aligns with India's strategic visions, creating avenues for increased naval interaction. Okay, why are all these countries interested in this, sea lanes of communication, which we say SLOC? Why are they interested in this? Because maximum trade of the world goes through these sea lanes. And if these sea lanes are dominated by China, which they want to do with their Belt and Road Initiative, creating multiple ports and turning those ports into military ports, that can be a threat to this entire trade. And since the coming decades of Asia, and the Europe and America, when they see India and China as the growing country and to be the next superpower of the world, they see that putting their bets on China has already failed. And now they want to put their bets, rather they're already putting their bets on a country which is democratic, which aligns with most of the principles of West and have a similar thought process, and a population or rather a population dividend which will fetch India to drive up. And that is the major reason, because of the thought process, because of the democratic values, and because they see that it is easier and better to align with India, because India does not have ulterior motives like China, because we are not trying to make any artificial islands in South China Sea or anywhere else. And that is the reason that these countries are aligning with India, and that is Italy's interest in Indo-Pacific is growing, because if they want to do trade with India and the Asian countries or ASEAN countries, these sea lanes of communication should have freedom of navigation, and specifically freedom of navigation from China and its military objectives. Next, broader economic and strategic. IMAC, I've been covering this, I don't know how many times in Daily Decodes. North-South Transport Corridor, India, Middle East, Europe, East Europe Economic Corridor. Continuously I've been covering it. So we spoke about this also. We had covered this also. This is your India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. Mumbai, say, you go to UAE, Mumbai to UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Turkey, Greece, and then you can go to your Eastern, and even if you want to go to the Western Europe, you can use this path. So the IMAC came in G20 Summit last year in 2023. So it's a 4,800 kilometer multimodal corridor announced G20 Summit last year. The corridor links include India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, Europe, Italy, France, and Greece. So once this happens, it will only the import and export of goods will happen. So just to add on this, so we are working on this. Yesterday I had already covered the Chennai-Vladivostok Maritime Corridor has already started. That's a statement which came from the Minister of Waterways, Sonowal. So we had covered that. So 2023, this has started. That's around, if I'm correct, more than 5,600 nautical miles. So that has already started in 2023, and we have been able to reduce the distance in terms by 40%. So if from the Chennai to, if you see from the eastern periphery, we say through the maritime, to reach the Vladivostok, it used to take 40 days. Now it is only taking 24 days. So we have reduced it by 16 days. This news I had covered in the Daily Decodes yesterday. Through the maps and everything, you can go and revise it. So again, this we have done. Space exploration, again the India and Italy working on Earth observation, heliophysics, lunar science and space exploration. So what is heliophysics? From a point of view of prelims, it is important. Heliophysics is more or less study around the sun. Study of sun, its connection to solar system and effect it has on Earth, on humanity. So the heliophysics more or less related to sun. Now, industrial and technological partnership in automotives, semiconductors. Now, semiconductors is India is focusing a lot. We are already doing a deal with semiconductors with Singapore. Why semiconductors is important? Read about AI. You will get to know. Why Mukesh Ambani is meeting NVIDIA head? Very important. Please read about them. Why AI is important, why India is investing on AI, why focus on so much on ChatGPT, OpenAI. So OpenAI CEO Sam Altman is the OpenAI CEO, and why the focus, why Mukesh Ambani was meeting NVIDIA. These are certain things. This is the homework. Please study. You'll get to know the answers. Why focus on semiconductors? Semiconductors, chips. And then something from chips, there is something called GPU, and GPU is something on which the artificial intelligence works. So go through this timeline, you will understand. Infrastructure and advanced manufacturing, again, working with Italy. Then migration and mobility. So we are talking about there should be legal migration of skilled workers. So problem with Italy is also there. Italy is also working against those illegal migrants. So they are saying that legal migration, skilled workers from India are welcome, but we don't want illegal migration. Very fair enough point with any country. Even India does not want illegal migration. So that means a categorical statement coming from both the sides. Agreement to promote legal migration of skilled workers while countering illegal migration, and the agreements regarding this. So I think this is a very fair point. Please put in the comment section what do you think about this. Do you think it's a correct point? Okay, sir, why not to allow students to attend the session offline if possible? Okay, if you are in Bangalore and you are at Insights, you can always come and join it. Right now, students are sitting here. Okay, so we don't have that problem. Next is okay. Now you see Justin Trudeau, and there's a reason I have this guy's image. So there is a saying in in Mahabharata. So it says Vinash Kale Viparita Buddhi. So it says that when you want to destroy yourself or others, your brain will also stop working. I am not giving you the exact English translation of it, but I hope you get the meaning. So because he wanted the Khalistani votes, and he has got the support of Jagmeet Singh there because of the NDP party. We have already covered the Canada issue earlier. So he went very pro with Khalistan. He was expecting he will get the Western support. Then he was pressurizing, or rather he is focusing on cancelling the visas. He's also focusing on that Indian students, or the number of Indian students which can come to Canada to study, putting bans on them, reducing their numbers. He's not realizing when Indian students go, they give billions of dollars to Canada. Okay, the fees is very high. It is around for for a 1-year course or a 2-year course fees, from 1-year course fees around 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs, and similarly the fees goes on increasing. Okay, the fees goes on increasing. So in terms of that, when we realize the fees is increasing, Canada is able to make a lot of money. Now, in this recent G20 summit, India has spoken about education with UK and also with Italy, because Prime Minister Modi is realizing that we have a huge population which wants to go abroad and study. And that is why this is happening. Cultural education collaboration. Because if Canada is not interested, there are many countries in the world who wants Indian students and they're ready to take their money and to train them. So discussion on deepening cooperation in cultural education and other people-to-people initiatives to strengthen bilateral ties. And that is why he can keep making his faces. Already, he probably might not even get a chance to stand for the Prime Minister again. And what is happening in Canada? Now in Canada, the Khalistans did a referendum and they were doing a procession, and they were saying they were saying to the whites that you are not the original Canadians. You need to go back to Europe and England. Imagine this. So if the Khalistan is not getting created here, there is no doubt about it. It will only create an internal security problem for Canada, which has already started. As and when their numbers increase, as and when they dominate the Parliament of Canada, we very well know what is coming in Canada. Okay. At least they can't tell that India didn't tell them. Strategic and geopolitical implication, India and Italy in defense, maritime, global economic initiatives is happening, cultural education, semiconductor initiatives is happening, maritime initiatives is happening. Overall, very good comprehensive economic development between both the countries, priorities in innovation and sustainable development. So again, a question: critically analyze the impact of global conflicts on the global south, highlighting the initiative discussed by to G20 in these challenges. Sorry, this question I think we have already covered yesterday. Okay. Tamil Nadu has the highest number of women councillor reports. So this is a wonderful news. Okay. So before we move, we need to understand what is the 74th constitutional amendment. It is related to your urban local bodies or municipalities. So urban local government were constitutionalized through the 74th Amendment Act during the regime of P.V. Narasimha Rao in 1992. And then one more question comes: when was it enforced? It was enforced, it came into force from 1st June 1993. It added Part 9A and consists of provisions of Article 243P to 243ZG. In addition, the Act also added the 12th schedule to the Constitution. It contains 18 functional items of the municipalities. So this is the static part which we cover in daily decodes every day, that certain part which is specifically related to prelims also be included in the lecture. Okay. So Tamil Nadu has the highest number of women councillors in Indian state with 46% representation and ULBs. In ULBs, that is urban local bodies. So a positive news coming in: out of 19 out of 21 capital cities with active ULBs, Patna, Shimla, Ranchi, Bhubaneswar, women councillor constitute over 60%. So we were talking, the constitution mandates around 33%. They've crossed over 60%. So good thing coming. Other top states for women councillor: Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Kerala, Bihar and Chhattisgarh. So many of the North Indian states are also there, which has come. So this is a positive news coming. And in terms of women participation increasing in the urban local bodies, 17 states have implemented 50% reservation for women, though surpassing what is the constitutional mandate of 33%. Urban transformation roadmap. So this report has been released by Janagraha. It talks about roadmap for India's city system reforms. So it tells that women participation is increasing, which focuses on more women empowerment. And second, it focuses on how urban governance in the country can be increased. What are the specific sectors which should be focused so that urban governance and how municipalities perform, they can improve. So specific things which they are talking about are these: place-based governance of Indian cities, decentralized participatory governance, and building state capacity. So what is decentralized? That means more devolution of power to these local bodies. So place-based governance. So imagining Ministry of, so what is the problem when it comes to Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and these state urban departments? They basically look like that these are only, they will only give money, they will only fund the schemes rather than focusing on strengthening the local self-government. So these regional economies and local governments, rather than sector specific, so they become very sector specific, scheme specific. So rather than sector specific, that if it comes to Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, that will only do to this sector, or this is the exact money which needs to be given. Rather than doing this, they need to strengthen, they need to give more devolution to these local self-government, more money, and they can work on their innovative and independent approach. Next is decentralized participatory governance, emphasizes the amendment and implementation of 74th Constitutional Amendment for empowering urban local bodies. So, key highlights, what are the major challenges? What are the key challenges when it comes to urban local bodies? Delayed council election in 61% of the ULBs across 15 states, so elections are getting delayed. Limited autonomy, that means the independence and autonomy to take decisions on scheme or implementation of scheme. They have limited autonomy for ULGs and mayors, who control only 4 out of 18 functions. Now 4 out of 18, that is not even 50% they command. Absence of formal platforms for citizen participation. So if the citizen participation happens, so when citizens will come, they can put their grievances, they can also put what they want from the urban local bodies and how urban local bodies can implement. So if the citizens are coming, they're putting their grievances and what they need, etc., etc., then you also need to increase the urban local body functions. Otherwise, these functions are with the top bureaucrats or they are with the higher authorities. By the time higher authorities come, there is a lot of delay and the things do not happen on time. Building state capacities, advocates for certification-based skilling progress for ULB staff. Now these urban local bodies, today we are talking about artificial intelligence, how it will be changing the entire, or rather it is already changing the mother earth and people. So the skill set, for example, if tomorrow implementation of AI is happening in the government department, but the urban local body staff, they don't know about AI, they don't know how to operate it. Or for example, if India is creating, or the government department creates something like GPT software which they are using, how would these people use if they don't know? So you need to upgrade the skill set, be it terms of computer, be it terms of intelligence, or be it terms of skill set which is needed in a specific program. It can be related to, human resources, it can be related to computers, it can be related to technology. Proposes municipal shared services centers, since they have proximity, nearness to the urban centers, these centers can be used. Recommends digital public finance management system for monitoring fund utilization and project progress, and this will also lead to transparency. For example, this says 100 crores, or say 100 crore is too high, say 10 crore was given. How is that 10 crore being utilized? How much money was transferred? Was it exactly 10 crores? And the money which has come, how much of the project implementation has happened? How are they working? So this is kind of a dashboard. So in terms of dashboard, this public finance management system will say fund utilization, and it will stop corruption also. And since it is digitized, everything can be seen. So this is also spoken about in the report. Suggest a shelf of projects, facilitate municipal borrowings and efficient project execution. One more thing. For example, 10 crore was given. After a point of time, they got to know the shelf life of project was 1 year and 10 crore was given. Now that 1 year project is not getting in 1 year, it will take 4 more years, and 10 crore, it might not be the right amount of it. It might need more or it might need less. So they can cut this project, they can can this project, and they can think about some other project. So we have a very practical approach to projects. Okay. Rural-urban transition highlights the need for rural-urban transition policy to manage the planned urbanization of villages. So, as urbanization is happening in a country, you go to your villages, what used to be 20 years, today it is not. So, by urbanization, I'm not talking about westernization thought. Urbanization in terms of school, in terms of college, better facilities, better hospitals. Like if you see a village, in village you generally have a primary health care clinic. Okay, but if you go to towns, if you go to cities, you have secondary care, you've got tertiary care. In tertiary care, you get specialized hospital. So in terms of that, all these facilities, all these things needs to be upgraded. Notes that approximately 1,000 villages have transitioned to cities since 2011. So more and more resources needs to be provided. In that sense, the expert says sector scheme and funding oriented governance to place-based governance for Indian cities. Okay, now we have a prelims question. 74th Amendment Act added Part 9 of the Constitution providing for establishment. Correct. It introduced 12th schedule which contains 18 functions, items for municipalities. Article 243Q specifies the composition of municipalities which includes directly elected members from the wards. Third statement is wrong, 1, 2 are correct because it is not Article 243, that is Article 243R which specifies the composition of municipalities. 243Q deals with constitution of municipalities, and when it comes to composition of municipalities, it is 243R. So we have a mains question, discuss the role of women in strengthening the urban governance in India. Further, what are the best ways to improve urban governance? You can use the information given in the PDF and what we have discussed. Rest, the link of the PDF would be given in the description also. Let's move towards the editorial, the last important news for today. Okay. So this relates to prison tags, or what we also known as tracking devices. So the author of this editorial basically talks about that since the jail occupancy in India is more than 133%. So 100% occupancy, we have 133%, we have more. So we need to do decongestion of these jails, and when you need to do decongestion of the jails, people with who have done little crimes or petty crimes, we can use these tracking devices and we can put them on parole and furlough and putting these tracking devices. Let's understand. The Supreme Court Center for Research and Planning has suggested electronic tracking devices for prisoners on parole or furlough as a means to reduce prison congestion, because in prison we already have an occupancy of more than 133%, so more than 100%. So it's overflowing with prisoners. So a pilot program has been proposed for under trial posing low or moderate risk, enabling their movements and tracked and restricted. So these people who get this furlough or they've been given a parole, and they'll be put a tracking device on them. This pilot experiment is happening, and they'll make sure, so this through your tracking device we get to know where is this this accused or the guilty person. And the second important thing is that that this person should not go to the victim and harass him or her. So in that terms, this tracking device will help. So Model Prisons and Correctional Service Act 2023, it contains provisions for granting prison leave condition on the willingness of prisoners to wear electronic tracking devices. So if they wear this electronic tracking devices, they can be put on parole or furlough, or they can be given prison leave. Violation would result in cancellation of leave, and they would be brought back to the prison. So Odisha is the first state to propose tamper-proof electronic trackers. So fact for prelims perspective. First state to propose tamper-proof electronic trackers for under trials accused of non-heinous offensive, aiming to reduce jail congestion. Many jurisdictions, so this is not only India, it has already been implemented in many European, American countries. Even if you see some Hollywood movies of America, so you will see these tracking devices put on some of the characters in the movie also. This is not, if you've seen the movie Ant-Man, so it was an Avengers movie, so in that they also put a tracking device. I'm giving you an example that this might be by trying in India, but has been already implemented across many countries. So worldwide, using tracking devices for offenders to monitor their movement and prevent them from entering sensitive areas or approaching victims. So this is the most important thing, that they should not approach or harass the victims, and that is what the tracking devices is all about. So Supreme Court had recently given a judgment. So so the condition was that condition was being put that these people would be given bail on the condition that their tracking device information is also available on Google Map. So Supreme Court said that disapproved of bail condition that infringe on right to privacy, such as requiring accused person to share their location on Google Maps. So they said even these people who are accused, they also have right to privacy. And when right to privacy comes under which article? Article 21. So such as requiring accused person to share their location on Google Maps. So Supreme Court cancelled this, that it is infringing. But at the same time, they are saying that we are cancelling this, that the bail condition is not this, but approaching the victim, that is a very important condition of Supreme Court, that should not happen. The report emphasized the need for clear guidelines and minimum standards to ensure tracking technology does not violate prisoners' rights and at the same time does not violate the rights of the victim also. So in this terms, this is the editorial all about. The Parliamentary Standing Committee recommends the cost-effective tracking device that respect privacy, reduce administrative cost and decongest prison. So all in all, a good point, if all in all a good news, and if this scheme can be implemented or these tracking devices can be made, so we can experiment in small batches, and if it is fine, then we can take a larger step. So compact, less, and one more problem with these devices is that if it is a big device, it is like of a stigma. People will say you are from jail, prison, and stigmatization in the Indian society does happen. So if it is a compact, less visible device, it could help mitigate concern, and then many of the prisoners would be ready to wear the devices. Something like, for example, like a smartwatch, or which looks fine, or it can be concealed. As of December 2022. So amounting to 131.4% of total capacity is already there. I said 133, it's 131.4, but even then, this is a 2022 reports. By 2024, this has increased only. So decongestion measures, including the tracking technology, are urgently required so that these prisoners, they can be out and decongestion of jail happens. What is the benefits? Avoid physical incarceration. Physical incarceration is putting these behind bars and physical jails. Reduces administrative cost, prevents released prisoners from approaching victims or crime-related locations. Now, what are the challenges? Challenges is, first of all, you need to have this kind of a tracking device. Guidelines are not there for deploying this technology, so we need to come up with a bill, then an act. Possible resistance for under trial on the basis that this is infringing on their privacy. And then affordable and tamper-proof devices. For example, if it is not tamper-proof, the accused or the guilty, he can use the guilty can use this, or the person from the prison can use, since it's not tamper proof, and they can harass the victims also. Strategic implications, balancing decongestion goals with privacy safeguard. Properly implemented, it can lead to electronic tracking, could modernize India's correctional system and ease on the burden of the jails. So it would be ease on the burden of jails, it would be good administratively, the cost would reduce, and it will also tell that how we are trying to modernize our jails and even our thought process. So a mains question has been given, evaluate the potential of electronic tracking devices as a solution for decongesting India's prison, discuss the associated challenges and measures needed to ensure privacy and fairness. Now in tidbits, today you have Daniel Barenboim and Ali Abu Awad has been given Indira Gandhi Peace Award, that is Peace, Disarmament and Development for 2023. So this person, when you talk about Daniel Barenboim, he's a pianist and conductor, contribution for fostering peace through musical and cultural dialogue. Then Palestinian peace activist Ali Abu Awad, advocacy for dialogue through his organization Roots. Okay. In the news, in the extra mile which you need to do, that is imposing tariffs on Chinese imports a good idea? So as per the many media reports, if the Americans do this, this will lead to a lot of inflation, which is not good for the global economy also. So this news you can go. And one more, this is also related to India, UK to relaunch trade talks in New Year, Stammer. So we are talking about, free trade agreement between India and UK. We have been continuously talking about this. Even Rishi Sunak was talking about this. He wanted to complete the deal, but then he is not the Prime Minister now. Now Stammer wants to complete it. And the tweets which came from Stammer and Modi on this were very, encouraging, and they were full of confidence. And again, here also we also spoke about education. Number of students going for education in UK, and that is why I'm saying that Trudeau's face, which I had covered. So with this, Daily Decodes ends today. I hope you did enjoy the lecture. Please like the session, share the session. Please press the bell icon, and the PDF of the news of this entire discussion would be available. If it is not available, it would be uploaded in coming hours. Thank you very much. Jai Hind and take care.